Film Dorks, what's going on? Welcome to a new segment that I'm going to call Unframed. Basically, me babbling about film stuff I've been watching lately, other things that are related that are on my mind, and maybe sometimes just general life stuff. And then subjecting y'all to it. If that moves your groove, well, welcome aboard. If it doesn't, I hope you'll still come back at the end of the month to check out my latest video in the Director's Series. So, part of the reason for doing this right now is this is kind of an important month in a way for the channel. When I started this whole Frame 24 project, I came up with a list of 24 directors that are the guys I assumed people study in film school. I don't have any idea. I didn't go to film school. These were the directors I thought would be a good starting point. And with the David Lynch video, I'm officially halfway through my list. It's kind of funny too, because I didn't do this on purpose. I was just kind of writing them down at random. But I kind of ended up putting most of the more fun directors in the second half and more of the more artistic and serious, the think piece directors in the first half. And so it's been kind of interesting as I've moved on from David Lynch and I've started working on the next director, because I kind of overnight went from dreamy, surreal, mysterious stuff to shit blowing up. And it's been a little bit of an adjustment trying to figure out how exactly to talk about a director who's really more of an action movie guy. It's one of those things where when you're in the middle of the journey, it's really hard to tell what kind of progress you're making. It's like with every director, kind of end up feeling like that director is the only director I've studied and that I'm at the beginning still. And that there's no end to it. Whew. It's like, when you were in school, or at least when I was in school, it'd be like every barking period or semester or whatever you want to call it, it was like the subjects we were learning was like the only thing that there was and the only thing you learned, and you never were going to get through learning about, the Pueblo Indians or whatever. And then a couple months later, it's like, oh my God, remember back when we were learning about the Pueblo Indians? So here's a question. How is everybody handling this whole COVID situation? Everybody staying healthy and safe and all of that. I hope you all are. We've been working from home for the last few months, and that has been something of an adjustment. We ended up having to buy new monitors for our computer and really kind of bummed about the whole, movie theaters being closed. I know that on my channel, I tend to focus entirely on older movies, but I like to go see newer stuff. I like to try to keep up with what's going on in the world of contemporary cinema. And that's a little hard to do when there is no contemporary cinema to speak of. But, we press on. We press on. The other thing I wanted to talk about, just in terms of, I guess it's actually not a very good place to segue into it. One of the things that I've actually done in the last couple weeks, and I don't remember, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, but I saw the movie Aliens for the first time since I was probably like 8 or 9. I don't think I was 10 yet, but I'm not sure. But when I was little, Aliens was one of those movies that we watched that over and over and over again. Rented it a lot and everything. So it was one of those movies that just kind of filtered into the rest of my childhood. My sister and I, we'd be outside and we'd be playing games where we were fighting an imaginary enemy, and one of us would would be an android who could move a knife really fast, like Bishop, and who would sacrifice themselves at the end of the game, and just before the bad guy was killed, or the bad guy would come after my sister, and I'd yell, "Get away from her, you witch!" Because we couldn't say the real quote because we were like 6 years old. And in fact, the one time that I'm pretty sure I did try to get away with the real quote, my mother heard me, and ooh, she was not happy. Um, but anyway, so I hadn't seen that movie in such a long time, such a very long time, and I was a little nervous coming into it, to be honest, because I was worried that it would actually not be as good as I remembered it being. Um, but in fact, it was at least as good as it had been when I was a kid. I think in a lot of ways, when I was like 5, I didn't really understand the story that well. I didn't really grasp a lot of the subtext. Um, and so I just appreciated it as this sort of on a myth level, as like fairy tale level, just for the action set pieces and the funny iconic lines and that kind of thing. um but as an adult, getting to go see it, I could still enjoy it on that level, but I'm also looking at it in terms of the craftsmanship, in terms of the set designs and the props and the special effects and the rather interesting things it says about gender, and both in terms of Ripley being this badass female character, but also in terms of the different versions of masculinity in different members of the Marines, and also, like Newt is fucking adorable. So yeah, I was really, really glad to see that movie lived up to my expectations and more. Do you guys have an equivalent to that? Is there a movie that when you were little was a huge part of your childhood and your imaginary world, and that either you've put off revisiting out of fear of just how much worse it's going to be, or maybe that you did revisit and had reaffirmed that it's just as good as you'd hoped it would be? If you have one of those movies, go ahead and drop a comment, tell me about it. Let me know how you're doing in all this COVID madness. Please stay safe, happy, and well. And yeah, see ya.